Joseph Bani Joseph Kurundo, Isti Mvskoke, Schwarzkuzi Magi Daya, Madundo. Ave New York Hudson, Azakat, Azula di doing, Wando no Mustwes, Wasada Gidundo, and Miko Yangi, Bobby Arjim, and Miko Rodi. Again, Opone Zangi, Miko Azen, Ojiabogo Miko, George Thompson, Dibagi, Ada, New York, Ininia, Omalgia, Idokalegi, Hasu Salija Mahoga, Mahatan, Abi Yadidundo, Abido Imas, Ahogi, Abi Yadihin, Idimbonaho, Itolin, Meso Lexi, Shimadoka again, Ujimiko, Yamahin, Amon Legi. Ma abia jimbona ho join hanyumi alagitsa chimagitseska tui chin haptua keze nagitse jun to black to tui nagitsa keze ojimi kudoga hanyumi igana ilusi lega maduha ko kisiskon dietki yesti igana pomija paridon managitse zedon do market Ayan, Slovlezi, Mastolesi, Ojimi Kodoga, Anyomi, Umistagi, Damahi, Yanapoli, Abode, she had Lagat Hakum, Kisis good, Agithe Zivit. Ada had the Bodo Hogu Mongin, Dui, Folagadi, Onaho, you do what you don't do from arguments. Had the Miko Azule Hojigo Mongin, Miko Azule, Ambona, you don't do from arguments. Ambona Doga. Ma in Miko Azulagi Pulaga di Mo levels out of stairs, Mo not Monahoy. What are you doing? Monado Gadi in Hanyui, Hillis with Estilai, Akoban in Fully, Shinhead, Gisim Boski, Fully Adidon of Market. Wando and Solidawa had the edge of Mongin. Omalgia, Idokalgi, Pokichi. Tihabode tin chokubi tin humbi fully at the door of Avaski don't have this meeting, fully at the door, they don't do it. Solidawa yesterday, Ibudo Hoga, they don't do. Ma Adoko gi Abiho di Mada Pone, what you don't do it. Had the Ibudo Hoki go Monko, Mat Onaho Ibudo, what you don't do from arguments. More of that Solidawa Yeza, without the Botski. Chibana Ozalki to stretch, Ilinja Jedi, Ito, Taksabala, Iga Sasokavaki, Hachiwaka, Akabaladaki, Chibana Ozemo, Igashi Tapsaki, Ozagidon, Ostadiga to stretch Diwanawes and to Hachi Lega, Umalka, Akabaladaki, Sahon of Sahanika, Madui Jedi, Mita Alidondo, Oktagimo, Madamoy, Solidawara, Mitakin. Lionwa, Shinezaga, Shakisaga, Madustes, Ido de Safogabaki, Basadaki, Yedawalega, Sahon of Shahanika, Market, Moi, Pomitagin, Adibo Dunduation, Sulgibido, Ingustis Kodai, Market, not Moaka, Punaitin, Marble Hesto Legamats, Ujimikoda, Hubayin, Ujifkada, Imhoyan, Hubayi. Azosalija, Hojifka, Lehoja, Dead Hanyuata, Hila, Gisimaha, do ready to duration, Hojifka, that Kosa Miko, Mahojifka, Hojimiko, does she get Hojifka Maho up Madundo? So, Lako Legadi Hachi, Kosa Hojifka, Lagidundo, Mamadikin, Ujaboho, that Legadi Duis. Madeso Hako, Kisis, Gun, Miko, that Manahojifo, Didundo. Not more gosin Avanahoyan, Opone Jangi, Idokalki, Moit Hasosalija, Idokalki, Abiya Didondo. In Hanui, Hubuneza, Yaidawa, Imanaguiji, Imistagio, Hanui, Aboka, Aonapsi, Gezagitayo, Abok doing. Na, Ona Ozimari Daya, Ozoko Stunduation, Madikos Estimunahian, and Gisaxin. Ayo tihet kiwonakan stimoria digarai. Years ago, me and the Miko of Alabama, Kwasadi, Babayarji, the Miko of Uziabova, George Thompson, and the Hiniha from New York, Pee Wee Cloud. We went to Georgia, and there was a reason that we all went down there, was because some of our people kept going back down there and they wanted to know why. So we went down there, and the reason I tell this story is because we are in the close proximity of Ujiabova, and the man that I stayed close to and talked to was George Thompson, and he was the Miko over there, and or is the Miko over there. And as we was going down there, after we got off the plane, we had the car, we was driving down there, there was these large trees all over the place on the route down there, and I seen Oji Miko sitting there thinking, so I asked him what he was thinking about, and he said all he could think about is his people, how beautiful this land was, and how nice it would have been if they were still there. And he said, I see why the Stihitki people wanted this land. And as we got closer and we got there to where they called the Horseshoe Bend Park area, there was all these big trees and stuff. And he was standing right here, we was talking, and he said, I can imagine that some of our camps were right here. He said, some of my members' camps were over here. He said, all these people, all of my people were running around, laughing and joking and telling stories, and were there for our ceremonies and stuff. And we all camped there and stayed there because we all stayed around our ceremonial grounds with Ujiafova. And he said that everybody talks about the removal of the Mvskoke people that came to Oklahoma. He said, but nobody talks about what happened before, or what happened just before the removal. And I guess, before a Miko is put on there or is picked out to be the Miko, the old Miko will tell him a story about the people. And so the Miko before him, they told him stories, so that story was handed down from generation to not generation, but from Miko to Miko. And so when me and Oji Miko was talking, we estimate probably about 4 Mikos ago was when the removal was going on. And I knew the Miko before George Thompson, and he was good friends with my dad, but I never got to talk to him because as a Dimanite, as a young person, we didn't hardly talk to old people. They said, go on, go play someplace. Because we had to respect our elders, so we stayed away from them. And but when I was with George, he was telling me these stories, and he said, just before they removed us, I guess some of the stories they said, like when it's time to eat, they would say, "Hombaks, punaya weki hombaks." We're talking and eat. Hurry up and eat. And sometimes they used to say, "Chilidze hosti weddings," which means they might run you off. And I never did understand that until George brought that up again. And he said when the soldiers came, all of our people sat there, was talking and laughing and eating. And the soldiers came in and they just flipped the table over and everybody had to leave. So some of our teachings, not Pumahahoedi, Dewey, Azida, how we're supposed to be and everything, was taught and learned before removal. And we carry that on today. A lot of the grassroots people, they would do that. But when I was speaking with George, he, the Miko, he was said that, and mind you, it's kind of sad in a way, Ishtimasko Galki, Imaida, Imadida, Imbonaga, Yichidondo. The Mvskoke ways of their tradition, their culture is hard. It's not an easy life. Isti Mvskoke duya. Hanyumi isti fulia, tostes chocolate fulia, hilistilaga mahok na Iloiji, Hombigo, o Istigo. Ada Tashigewa, Hiliswajilaya na Yafkus istuesuusi, Hombigo, Hombidahayo, Optakbano, Tostesmo, Iloiji despoli. Naktes adiloja tostes jitsilondo. Saskidadi on aidoga hiilehdust on kona namoaga isti jitsigo teduos tues miisidaja tiumalgia Mvskoke duohan jäditön duesi muovigo kona zuosi bohagivi ei bidondo. So the Mvskoke way of life is hard. It's strong, but yet it's hard. Our people in our ceremonies, they fast all day. The Dashigea, the warriors, they fast all day. Sometimes they don't get out till late at night. The Hombidahaya, if they're like ribbon dance, some of them probably don't eat until the dance is over with, especially the front four or the first ones, and every ground is different. And Ujimiko, he was talking to me about that, and also some stories from my dad and the Alabama Miko all combined together. If those things were easy, everybody would be Mvskoke people. Everybody would be practicing or doing that tradition or being part of that culture. But because it's hard, our ceremonies are going down. We don't have very many left. But Ujimiko, when he was talking to me about that, we was pretty much on the ground where the old Ujiabova was. And he said, when the soldiers came, they threw the tables over, and people had to leave without eating. And he said that time will come again, Adam Wahish. And we listen to those stories, but we don't know if it will or not. Sometimes to the point after time has passed, we don't think it's going to happen. But it does happen. So when I say it was hard and it's strong and it was sad, in the pre-removal, the soldiers were told to remove these people at any cost, get them over to the Indian Territory at any cost. And so when they were rounding up all the Ojibwe people, little kids, little boys about this high, the soldiers would grab their feet and slam their head against them trees. And as he was telling me that story, there was this big old huge oak tree standing there. He said, I wonder if it was only about that big at that time. He said little boys were gathered up and they were tied up with ropes and they were thrown in that river right there. He said it was because they wanted to save the bullets. And those little boys, like 3 or 4 of them that were tied up, they drowned in that river. Little girls were done the same way. They were killed so that Ojibwe would not exist, so that the Mvskoke people would not exist, because it was termination. It was to do away with the Stijai people. Those are stories that you're not going to find in history books. Those are stories that are written, or not written, but told to us to listen to and to hear from people like Ujimiko. And it was sad, but yet I watched him tell a story as he looked around the whole place and seen how big these trees were. And when I say that Ojibwe's ceremonial name is Kosa Miko, and the Miko before him was Kosa Miko, and before him was the same thing. And so when he dies, that next chief will be called Kosa Miko. Ojibwe is on the Kosa River today over there in Georgia and Alabama. So that's who he was. That's how his name came to be. Although everybody calls him Miko, but nobody, out of respect, we have to call our Mikos Miko. But sometimes they don't know their real name. And the reason I say that here is because I know there's a lot of Ojibwe people here. And that was a story that was told to me about Ojibwa and how the removal started before the Trail of Tears. And when I was talking to her over there, how the Trail of Tears had hopped in a wagon and moved them down the road, and it wasn't so. A lot of our Pomeda, Isti, Shongato stretch, Isti Hobilhona, and Igana Gohe, Madana Hogitona, Ashigida Mahoke, Fishwani Hojidundo, Skipka, Isho Adiki, Isho Azawanda, Hanuizi, Oftosaya, but Ashigida Dundo, Spooky, Ashigida Dundo, Mahoganda, Isti, Torofiska Hoyanipo, Moi Hobilhona, Talaki, Skipka, Ewa Hoidon, Isho Azawanda, Oftosaya Hoidundo. Ma Oftosaya, Ahobaki Hoidundo, Stewie, Eputo Hokadi. What I said is that when our people pass away here today, when they passed away on the walk here, we did not have a funeral. We didn't dig a grave and we didn't bury somebody. We just got a blanket and we covered them up. So on our coffin, we put a blanket on top of them. So when we bury them, Tamika would say, there's enough of us, grab dirt, put it on them, grab a handful of dirt, put it on them as you walk by. So today we say that that's a farewell handshake. So that comes from the Trail of Tears. So we still, even I guess there's not, if we think about it real hard, some of the things that we practice today, we don't know why, but more than likely it comes from the old country. And so when I say Ishti Mvskoke, he made a yikchi geza, when I say that the Mvskoke way is hard, the stories are hard, they're sad, but it's true. And, in closing, Hanyui, Ojibwa, Yaboa, Chimidalwa, Hanyui, Alapa, Madotebezaledo. I'd like to thank the Mvskoke people, the Ojibwa people of this place for letting me come here to share a few words of the Ojibwa people's ways. And again, Madotebezaledo.